talking about the evolution of NFTs and sort of why we think Sui is going to pioneer that next narrative of NFTs. So my name is Kotaro. I'm the co-founder and creative director at Studio Mirai. I'm joined here with my brother.
I'm BL. I'm the co-founder and CTO. So I do most of our code work and all of that good stuff.
So Studio Mirai is a venture studio building in the intersection creativity, technology, and community. And at Studio Mirai, we really focus on building consumer experiences with our bootstrap communities, all powered by Sui.
All right, let's dive in. So back in maybe like a cycle or two ago, we had the emergence of some of the top projects that we now see now. So we have like CryptoPunks, we have Bored Apes, we have the Penguins, and all of these assets were expressed on chain through an NFT standard. So through this NFT standard, and we'll talk a bit more about what that means in a bit, it meant that these collections had to think about ways to, actually grow, what the story that they wanted to tell is. And after we thought about it a bit, we think for those collections, it really boiled down to these four things. So the first one, the idea that the collection, there's like a set cap. You can own, different kinds of traits. Some might be more rare. There's a scarcity effect. The second thing is the identity. Some people might vibe well with a certain type of art, and you might want to set it as your profile pic on X or Discord, and you identify like that. The next one is community. When more people identify with it, they come together, and then naturally, you might get Discords, you might get chats, you might get events in the real world, a chance for people to bond and to do that. Last thing, of course, is speculation. I think this is something that's pretty obvious. There's definitely an investment perspective side to it where I think when a lot of people buy these sorts of things, they do hope that the price will hopefully go up instead of go down. So I think that when the whole NFT boom happened, no one really stopped to think about, what does the blockchain actually see? Because as we all know here, a blockchain is a network that is self-contained. It cannot make requests out to the internet to learn about more things that are off-chain. So it's actually really important to consider when you're building an asset, it's really important to consider what the blockchain sees. Because if a blockchain cannot, see the true characteristics of an asset, it means, it can't change it, and ultimately the asset cannot mutate at all. On Ethereum, and that class of chains where, unlike Sui, where the base unit of account is an object, on chains like Ethereum, the base unit of account, you have accounts and contracts. And in order to express, a digital object, which I think is what NFTs are supposed to be, there wasn't really a mechanism to do that. So this idea of NFT standard emerged where you basically map together different components and then offload the rendering and the tangibility of the asset. You offload that to the front end. The front end pulls all of these things and displays a picture. But this is what the blockchain sees. It can only see the owner. It can see an ID, which is typically a number, and it can see an IPFS hash, which is pointing off-chain. So let's talk a bit about what these NFT standards actually do. That side is on-chain, this side is off-chain. On the on-chain side, again, you have the owner, you have the token ID, and then you have a hash that's pointing off-chain. But when you have these collections, the most important part is what that asset actually is. Stuff like what the background is, what the intelligence is, what the name is, what the description is, all the things that actually are important to describe an asset is stored off-chain. So what that implies is that all the smart contracts that are on-chain have no ability to actually understand what that asset actually is, which I think is a big reason why the projects that I just mentioned, a lot of the utility that they had to offer were things off-chain. You know, the ability to have a story, the ability for people to have an identity, all of that stuff is off-chain. And this is a really big deal because when you have all of the data off-chain and you have the ownership on-chain, all you're really owning is a certificate that shows that you own something. You don't actually own the object because from the blockchain's perspective, that object actually does not exist. So we believe that on-chain assets should capture three things: the ownership, the characteristics, and the behavior. All of these things should be captured on-chain. This is how the real world works as well. You know, when you pull out your phone, you want to use your phone. You don't want to use a piece of paper that says you own the phone, right? Same thing if you live in a house. You want to have a house that you can enter. You know, you can go to the bathroom, you can go to sleep. You don't want just like a certificate that shows that you own the house. And at some point, when we discovered this aspect of Sui, we got really excited. So on Sui, you can express all of these three things, and we'll get in a bit about how that happens. So this is what an object looks like on Sui. So the top one is basically showing, you know, like a coffee. The bottom one is showing a coffee shop. There's a few things that are really cool here. So first thing is the owner field. So Sui gives you the tools to express three different types of objects. You have an owned object, which is an object owned by an address. So if we map that to the real world, that could be, you know, like your phone or the cup in your hand. That's something that you own at that moment. A shared object is something that people can read write to. And an example of a shared object could be a coffee shop or even this venue, you know, where we can all come in. You can assign different people different objects that capture what they can do within the shop. You know, so for example, you know, only certain people can put mics on us, and then only certain people can sit in these seats. So it gives you the primitives to really express and model how things work in the real world. So you see we have those fields up there, stuff like the name, the identifier, the price, the roast, the amount of cups that you still have. All of these things are captured on chain, which means you can then pass that object into a different function to mutate the state of that object. So you can imagine that if we had another field called like, has the coffee been drank yet? That could be true or false. You can actually pass that object into a function called drink, and then you can mutate the state of the drink from not drunk to drunk. And in the coffee shop, you know, you can have a field of customers. You know, customers can be a list of customers. You can have a menu, you know, that just maps a string that represents what that thing is to the price. So it allows you to really think about how these objects exist in the real world. And with almost zero signal loss, you can recreate that on Sui.
All right, so the Prime Motion. You may have seen this NFT project. The profile picture is represented by a lot of people in this Sui community. We have fully achieved robot domination as of today. So the Prime Motion collection was initially inspired by Japanese manga, kind of going from black and white manga to anime. We kind of represent that with how we influence with the dynamic coloring. Since Basecamp, we actually launched the day before Basecamp in April, and we minted out in 80 seconds. Since then, we've been the top trending project on Tradeport, and we've been able to, you know, host events all around the world. We've been able to foster a global community, and we've been able to kind of showcase what research and development we can do on Sui. So some of our design goals that we've kind of looked forward to is being 100% on chain. We have dynamic coloring, we have Sui NS integration, and we have digital tangibility.
Okay, so for all the builders out there, an NFT project is actually a great way to fund research about what the capabilities of the blockchain are. Because if you're able to build something cool, you're able to recoup some of that cost. So just a quick pro tip there. So for this collection, we wanted our pictures to be 100% on-chain. And we decided to do that because, first of all, transactions and the ability to store data on-chain, because Sui is actually designed just for that. It captures things as objects. You don't have that additional, abstraction between account and object, which does add to the cost of how much it might cost to store stuff on-chain. We wanted to explore this on Sui, and we developed this system which takes a picture, splits it into a bunch of chunks, and actually captures all of those chunks on chain. And we have a client on the front end that fetches all of the chunks and reconstructs them on the fly. So this actually allowed us to learn a lot about Sui. The first version of this storage mechanism that we built was very slow. Because we basically had one object, and each chunk we were inserting into the object directly. We moved the system over to like a transfer to object thing, which allowed us to assign, let's say, 9 gas coins to create the chunks concurrently and take advantage of the transfer to object to transfer all the chunks to the image itself. So that actually led to like almost 1,000 times faster to upload all of the pictures on chain. And of course, the price-wise, it's very great as well. For our collection, can you go back to the previous? For our collection, the pictures cost 100x less than inscriptions on Solana, 1,000x less than Bitcoin inscriptions. And all the individual Prime Machine themselves are actually on-chain objects that are natively capable of receiving and owning objects by themselves. So this idea of dynamic coloring allowed us to explore the storage rebate feature of Sui, where it starts as black and white. When you change it to a color one, the black and white image gets taken off, and then it gets destroyed. During that process, the user is able to claim some Sui back, because Sui is actually the raw material you use to create the objects. Kind of like how when you have a watch, you can melt it down to gold, and it's still worth something. So we have 2 levels of coloring, black and white to color, and then to custom as well.
So with the Sui NS integration, every robot actually has their own name. Each NFT is its own wallet, it's its own identity. So with the Prime Machine, we were able to kind of insert the Sui NS subnames. So you can actually send assets to like 2723 at Prime Machine. And we've been able to send airdrops, we've been able to send Suiland accounts, vouchers, other NFTs. So it kind of gives a sense that you actually, these robots actually have identities.
Yeah, the last thing is digital tangibility. We wanted to make sure there was a way to add some weight to an object in a virtual world is really interesting. And we feel like a few things definitely help this. The first thing is the fact that it takes some amount of Sui to craft these objects because it takes some amount of Sui to store the pictures on chain. When you destroy something, you get a storage rebate back. And last thing, the fact that every single Prime Machine is actually named and addressable, gives them a sense of identity, something that you can really feel and hold. These guys are like one of our favorite examples of interesting NFT use cases on Sui. They've built out this collection that lets you create a character. You have all of these equipments, and we can quickly see the parallel to how this can apply to on-chain games, right? Where you attach different things, and you're able to customize the character. And all of these things are happening on-chain at a very fast rate, thanks to the performance of Sui. Yeah, so the last thing, like blockchains, they're inherently self-contained worlds. They have a sense of time. Time can only pass one way. And we believe that, creators should be given the tools to express ownership, characteristics, and behavior of objects. Because if you don't have those three things, it's going to be a very boring world where nothing can ever change. You can't own anything, you can't touch anything, you can't feel anything. That's what NFTs on other blockchains are, because they're confined to very strict standards. But on Sui, we have complete flexibility to really drill in and say, okay, what do I want this object to be? It's its own custom type. Another type is going to be completely different fields, completely different set of functions that can mutate that object. So we believe that Sui is the best place to build the future of NFTs. Yeah. So why Sui for NFTs? Like I mentioned, the ability to have a flexible object model that also gives you a permission system built in as well. So it's not like a permissions thing that each team that builds something has to come up with. It's built in straight into the chain, owned, shared, and immutable is how the real world works as well. Allows developers to create real-world objects and flows with high precision. Verifiable blob storage via Walrus is huge. There's no longer a disconnect between storage and where the contract is. If we wanted to create something that required a lot of storage that doesn't make sense to store directly on Sui, we can create an object on Walrus, get a blob object, which we can then wrap into a custom type on Sui. So there's this hard link between Sui and where the data is stored, which is you don't really get with NFTs on Ethereum and IPFS, because there's no way to really wrap stuff there. Lastly, the industry-leading performance makes it possible to execute really complex object mutations in near real time. And that's really important for consumer use cases, and it's definitely something that's unique to Sui at this point.
All right, one more thing. We did have a really fun collaboration that happened. You may have seen it already. I want to introduce one of our partners, Christopher, the founder of R2, on stage to talk about this collaboration.
Oh, hello, everyone. Hello. Let me give you guys a brief introduction about myself. I am Christopher. I am the founder of R2, and I would like to give you guys a little bit introduction about what R2 is. So as you guys might see, from our booth, we are the very first fine art RWA projects on Sui, and we are building the financial infrastructure for art investment. As some people, you might experience with art investment, it has been a highly unregulated market where a lot of things are not disclosed to a lot of people, and also the entry barriers are incredibly high. This is why we're actually lowering the entry barrier by issuing the fractional ownership, or more like a token in the nature of a future on Sui. And also and I would also love to talk about, can we go to the next slide, please? Yes. Yeah, this collaboration, why we're doing this with the NFT project. Because, traditionally people think NFT are more utility-based. People are not so sure of the artistic value towards NFT project, but I don't think so. I think these guys have done an amazing job with all of the Martians. And by lowering down the entry barrier, I don't only mean it in terms of the monetary value, also in terms of the educational barrier of adopting fine art. So I think this collaboration really brings two communities which supposed to be together into creating more mass adoption towards the general public. Yeah. So thank you guys. This is a painting, and if you guys want more details, please come to our booth.
Yes, we have a Recreations Prime Motion 2956. the level 1, and then we have a inspired by Henry Matisse. You can see it over there and talk with us there. But thank you for your time, guys.